I'll step up again, and if Mayor Fitch would be so inclined.
Yep, that'd be great.
Okay, very good.
Second that.
Very good. We just do a call for approval, just so that way we have that for the record. All those that approve of the nomination of Woody as chair and Commissioner Wright as vice chair. Oh,
No, Mayor Fitch.
Mayor Fitch, excuse me. Mayor Fitch as vice chair.
He was looking at you when he said it.
You guys got to watch me up here, going without a screen. If you could please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right. That motion carries. Woody, do you want to take it from here? Do you want me to carry forward?
I've got it.
Perfect.
Okay. So we'll call this meeting of the Pensacola-Perdido Bays Estuary Program to order, May
Oh.
17th.
Woody, we still had two more on the
Oh,
Finance
my
Subcommittee.
bad. All right, you go for it then. Sorry. I'm taking,
Sorry about that. Just looking for approval for the July 20th, 2022 Subcommittee meeting minutes.
Motion to approve.
Yep. Heard Mike and then Commissioner Wright? All right.
Yep.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Very good. Last action item under the Finance Subcommittee is the approval of the 2023 meeting schedule, which is included in the backup.
So Matt, at our last meeting, I think there was discussion on whether or not some of these dates conflicted, but we weren't able to make a decision on it. Am I correct?
I think Commissioner Bender brought up a potential conflict, but that was resolved.
Okay.
As far as I know.
Yeah,
Commissioner Wright, I don't know if you had anything else.
I think I was good with the way it was presented. Yeah, if I remember correctly, it was just Bender that had the issue.
Yeah.
Well, in that case, motion to approve.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Very good. With that concludes the action items for the Finance Subcommittee. Is there any public comment related to the Finance Subcommittee? And just to note, we'll be rolling into the full board meeting in just a minute here, but if there's any public comment on the Finance Subcommittee, we'll take that now. Not, we'll close public comment and we will adjourn the Finance Subcommittee. Thank you. Now you may proceed.
Should I wait? Should I wait for anyone else?
1, 2, 3,
Would-
4, 5, 6, 7. We do have a quorum present.
We do? Okay. All right. We'll shuffle here. Okay. I call this meeting of the May 17th, 2023 Pensacola and Perdido Bays Estuary Program to order. Can you call roll, please, Matt?
Yes, sir. Chairman Speed,
Present.
Vice Chair Wright,
Here.
Mayor Boutwell,
Here.
Mayor Fitch,
Here.
Commissioner Kohler is on his way, Commissioner Bender is on his way, Mr. Norberg,
Here.
Commissioner Smith,
Here.
Councilman Moore, and we do have a note from Vernon Compton representing City of Milton that he has a conflict with his work and could not be here. So we do have a quorum present.
Great. Should we go ahead, I believe there was some discussion about moving the action items up. Should we go ahead and do that?
Yeah, we can go ahead and do that. If you want to maybe approve the
Agenda?
agenda and the policy board minutes first, and then we take those action items, if that sounds good.
Okay, so I would consider a motion to approve the agenda today as written.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All right, motion passes. Okay, next up is approval of the policy board minutes.
Approve, move to approve.
Second. All right, motion passes. And we're going to move the action items up because I believe there's some time crunches that we're working against. So starting with the first one, we've got the approval of waiving the 60-day termination notice for Baldwin County's membership.
I've got a quick question. Matt, is there any reason why we should deny this? And do you see any legal concerns that Mary Jane has or anything?
I don't know if there's any legal concerns, and I'll let Mary Jane speak to that. You know, just in terms of full context and awareness, you know, I've had discussions with many of you over the last couple of weeks related to Baldwin County's decision to pull out of the interlocal agreement. you know, and certainly that's an unfortunate decision that the county's made, but like each jurisdiction, that is totally their prerogative to make. Say the same thing about y'all. We're a partnership-based organization, and we intend to keep it that way and keep working at that watershed perspective, and would always welcome back Baldwin County to the program, so long as the board agreed with that. You know, allowing the waiver of the 60-day termination notice allows us to make sure that we can continue proceeding with the organizational transition to the nonprofit corporation uninterrupted. I think, as Mary Jane and I have discussed over the last couple weeks, if that were to stand, we would have to wait that full 60-day period before the new interlocal agreement would come into effect. So, Mary Jane, is that okay?
Okay, that's sufficient. In that case, I mean, I'll just say that it's disappointing that they've chosen to pull out, and I think it's certainly to their detriment. But I think the door should always be open to them coming back if they so choose when they see the error of their ways. And with that being said, I would move approval to accept their 60-day notice termination.
All right. Any discussion? Any opposed? All right, motion passes. And I want to just take a second here, because we are another Alabama entity. Baldwin County's decision to pull out has no bearing on our participation. We're here. You know, Orange Beach is its own municipality. We're not influenced by Baldwin County whatsoever. So we're still moving ahead as we have been. So.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to add to that if I could. I think it's a great opportunity to probably add some more Alabama partnerships to this as well.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, with the small municipalities that Alberta, little towns that are right there on the water and that do contribute to the estuary program. I mean, I think the runoff, so I think it would be prudent for us to look into that.
Absolutely, and we do have some of those municipalities, the small towns engaged, so I think it's just a matter of, you know, having that discussion.
Mr. Chair, if I may. I also think, I was going to step in and say that also, but is that something that we want to try to pursue before or after incorporation as a not-for-profit?
After. Let's get settled and then we can grow.
That's the way I feel.
Yeah.
Yep, I just wanted to.
Okay.
And that's certainly something.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, and I haven't had the chance to catch up with some of the Baldwin County. Of course, talked with Matt and Grover. But one of the comments that I heard from their board was that, you know, they were, I guess, disappointed that we had gone in the direction of a nonprofit, and that they had hoped that we were going to be part. You know, the goal was to be part of NEP. Well, when we don't have support to go to the NEP route, then it, you know. So I would say if they still want to see that, then I would welcome a letter of support from Baldwin County to have us go the NEP route, because that's something we would still like to do and something we can still do. This is just the entity that's going to be stood up, and so to have us part of the NEP, I think would be a great addition to their county, and hopefully they can support that even if they're not with us on that. So, you know, hopefully Mobile Estuary Program, Baldwin County can send those letters of support to us being included as a National Estuary Program, because ultimately it supports the bays, it supports the waterways, the water quality, and it would be part of you know, the boundaries of Baldwin County. You know, I guess I'm not sorry that they're part of two watersheds. I mean, it is what it is, and Manatee County is a part of 3 estuary programs, and I also find it ironic that as soon as they say that they don't know that they can be part of another state, that they talk about partnering with Mississippi, almost in the same sentence. And so, you know, and I would tell them if they're watching and listening, if anything I said was wrong, please give me a call, but it's definitely how it's been portrayed to me. And, you know, with that being said, you know, a lot of us up here are on the TPO, that we have built, I mean, it's the Florida-Alabama TPO that they're a part of, that we have out here, and we work well with them, so I'm not looking to have this interfere with the relationship that we have. Of course, it is disappointing that they've gone this direction, but I think the proof will be in the pudding when they see the results coming from the estuary program and what we're doing and what they're getting in return for their choice. But, ultimately, and I think part of this group is that we put politics aside, that we go off of science, and the focus is improving the water quality and the estuary programs and the estuaries. So I think that's where you'll see our results will be in our talking will be in the results of our program.
You're here. Okay. Anyone else before we move on? Great. All right, next item is approval of the Pensacola-Perdido Bays Estuary Program Articles of Incorporation.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, again, we do have Mary Jane Bass here, our legal counsel, if there's any questions related to items 6B, C, or D. We've had great working relationship the last couple months to prepare these. Mary Jane, if you want to add anything. Go for it.
Just to kind of remind you what we're doing here. I know you all are up to speed on it. We had, at the last meeting, approval from the board to recommend that the partners under the interlocal agreement approve the first amended and restated interlocal agreement, and I believe that as of yesterday, everyone, with the exception of Baldwin County, who has chosen to withdraw, you've approved that, and by approving the waiver of the 60-day notice, they've waived it, you've agreed to waive it. That means that everyone who is a party currently to the interlocal has now approved the amended and restated, and that is the vehicle for your now approving that we go forward and file articles of incorporation to establish the nonprofit. The bylaws are based upon your former bylaws your current bylaws, I should say, under the interlocal agreement. So they've just been modified to provide for things that you would provide for in corporate bylaws. The articles actually appoint all of the current members of the board to be the board of the corporation. If you do add partners down the road and amend the interlocal to do so, and I think you're probably going to need to amend it to take Baldwin County out, but you can elect additional representatives to your board without having to change the articles. Articles can be amended, so that's not a big issue either. And then the final document is a consent resolution that would hopefully be unanimous, needs to be unanimous, in lieu of a corporate organizational meeting. And it does certain things like address the bylaws, adopt them, also establishes your chair and your vice chair as your current ones are, and it authorizes the opening of bank accounts for the corporation. I think that Matt is working on requests for proposals, so you will do your competitive solicitations as needed, but it will be important for him to have the authorization to go forward and go ahead and open those bank accounts so you can start to operate as this independent entity. So that's what the documents before you are doing, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Sorry, it's tough to be seen down here. Okay.
Questions?
Yeah, so it looks like Baldwin County's already been taken out.
They are not included in the draft articles of incorporation because we
Right.
knew
Okay.
that was
I
there.
understand.
So they are not included as a director for the corporation or as a signatory on the resolution.
Sure, okay, which I would agree with. But then also, hey, just on the address, do we need a floor number or anything like that? It's not in there, so we have an office number, so I didn't know if
Okay.
if that should be included.
If you'd like to add that, that's certainly something we can do. I don't know if it's necessary.
Yeah, but-
Okay, as long as it gets there, I think you're
Okay,
good.
yep.
And just procedurally, what would happen is my office will file the articles tomorrow. I think we'll date everything tomorrow, even though they're approved today, but, and then we'll file with the Secretary of State. And what happens, there's not really an approval process unless there's something missing that you're required to have, but I know these have all of the requirements, I think, so that, you know, we should get what they'll have. They'll assign the corporation a number, and eventually you'll, if you look them up on Sunbiz, you'll be able to find, you know, the record of the articles and that they have been recorded. I think it sometimes takes a few days to get that back, and there is a filing fee. It's not a large amount, but we would pay that and then bill it back to you.
So then one thing we will have to keep in mind is that any time a policy board member changes, that we'll have to update this as well then.
You can actually, I don't know that you'll have to update the articles. You,
Right.
through your bylaws, you can make changes to your board.
Okay.
So the articles just appoint the initial board of directors.
All
So,
right, just making sure we're, you know,
yes,
what
and
we have to do when things change, yeah.
we'll keep up with that and bring to you any amendments that are necessary.
Great. Any other questions, concerns?
Mr. Chairman, just on that note, if everybody can stick around, if the board so chooses to approve this, to sign the resolution, that would be most helpful so we can get that done today.
Great.
And I was going to simply say, appreciate the resolution. We will still be working through Escambia County in this sort of next 3 months, but we do want to do things like begin to get a bank account that we can at least begin to solicit those private sector sponsorship opportunities that we had talked about. So that's what that allows us to do. We will still be working everything pretty much through Escambia County, but that will set it up. The last thing is, we will probably be coming to all of you to be seeking people to serve on our solicitations. So if we're reaching out to you and need somebody with either insurance, banking, accounting, and bookkeeping, probably those 4 things we'll be going out for. We may be contacting you and looking for some of your staff to serve on that. We certainly would appreciate them and their willingness to be a part of that solicitation process.
And that is important in that, you know, what we'll be doing going out with requests for proposals is assuring that you are compliant with laws applicable to local governments on procurement. Obviously, you're subject to sunshine law, public records, all of those things are covered in the corporate documents as well as, of course, in the interlocal. And one final thing on the nonprofit status. So this, by filing these articles of incorporation and taking the steps that you will hopefully approve today, you are establishing and setting up the Florida Not-for-Profit Corporation. The other step that I understand you want to accomplish is to obtain the IRS determination that the entity is a recognized federal 501c3 corporation, meaning that the contributions that are made to the organization, to the corporation, can then, under another section of the IRS code that I have learned about this week, my tax partner has been helping be sure we've got all this done properly, but then the individuals who make contributions can then take a deduction on their taxes. So the next thing we will bring to you is that application for the 501c3 determination. You will be, we think, tax exempt, but again, you want to have that official determination letter from the IRS so that you can provide it to contributors. So we'll be working on that if everything else falls in place. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Any other discussion?
I may just make a motion that we accept the articles of incorporation as presented.
Second.
All right. Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Okay, next item, approval of the Pensacola and Perdido Bays Estuary Program bylaws.
Move to approve.
Second. Any opposed? And motion passes. Okay, next item, approval of the Pensacola Perdido Bays Estuary Program consent resolution.
Move to approve.
Any opposed? And the motion passes. Okay, and the last item under action items is approval of the 2023 to 2027 comprehensive monitoring strategy. Matt, can you give us a little background on this?
Sure, absolutely, and then I may ask Whitney to come up too to give a little bit more context, but certainly as you've seen over the last 6 to 9 months or so, the board's approved education and outreach strategy, a finance strategy. This is the other element that has been in the works, the comprehensive monitoring strategy. It is one of the deliverables for the EPA Restore grant that stood up the program. Whitney and Haley have been working tirelessly over the last year, really, to kind of combine, filter through, sort through existing monitoring programs, see where those gaps exist, bring that back to the technical committee, and then present this kind of package together that looks at where we would want to focus as a region monitoring resources moving forward, be that water quality, seagrass, oysters, et cetera. So this is before you. This is not a binding document, but really serves as a blueprint for where the program works with our partners over the coming 5 years on a comprehensive monitoring approach. Anything else?
Nailed it. All right, great. I'd entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, motion passes. Great, and I think that's all the action items.
So Matt, I have a quick question, if I may.
Yes.
On a lot of these monitoring strategies that have been identified, many of them are done by the state. Obviously, there's a handful of them that aren't done to the extent that they need to be done, especially in the Panhandle in its entirety. When you're pursuing state funds, whether it's legislative appropriations or whatever, are you identifying these as things that are lacking, that state programs that aren't being operating
Right.
in this area?
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought up that point because that's something that I've wanted to get both, this document and the CCMP done, so that way when we are having those conversations with state level leadership, whether it's at the department level or whether that's at the legislative delegation level, we can demonstrate to those decision makers where we are lacking and where additional resources are necessary. So having this, yes, absolutely will go to support that argument.
Great. All right, let's see. Should we go to staff updates?
We can do that,
Or to discussion?
whichever you'd prefer.
Let's jump back to staff updates.
Okay, very good. I don't know, are you guys seeing the presentation on your screen up there?
We are not.
Okay. I don't know how we do that. Maybe he's pulling it up, hopefully. Okay. I think Maddie's taking care of it, so
All right.
I will. I'll give
Do
you
that.
the.
Help your
Oh,
neighbor.
there we go. Perfect. Now I can see it. This is great. So,
There it is.
we're all good and settled? Perfect. Very good. All right, for my staff updates, just to give a quick update in terms of the organizational transition now that the board has just taken the action that you've taken. Registration of the corporation will, I guess, happen tomorrow after we get everything signed and over to Mary Jane for approval. After that, we'll be working to apply for our EIN number, our U.S. ID, that's for our federal grants, and then that nonprofit filing status that Mary Jane mentioned. From there, we'll look to get interim banking services set up, and then get those RFPs out for accounting and banking services, which we would expect to bring the accounting services contract back to the board in July, and then the banking services by September, hopefully before, if possible. Also, by the July board meeting, we intend to have the operations manual, personnel handbook, and the grant management handbook before the board for approval as well. Our office lease comes due in August of this year, so we'll have that on the July board meeting to transfer that lease over under the new corporation. We'll also make sure to get an MOU in place between the estuary program and the county for all of the assets that are currently technically owned by the county moved over to the program. And then we'll finally be working on the insurance policy, the employee benefits plan, and then ultimately transfer all of the employees and assets over to the new corporation by the end of September. So,
Matt, I have a question for you.
Yep.
Regarding the office lease transition.
Mhm.
Now that we potentially will have that nonprofit status, you think there's a possibility that maybe the owners of the building would consider, you and I
Yeah.
have discussed it in the
Yeah.
past, just figured, if we haven't started that discussion, maybe we can at least pick it back up and see what happens.
Yeah, so I don't want to throw out numbers, but we have had that conversation in the past, and we've been waiting for some of these steps to move forward. I think there is an ability to work something out there, falling under our business partnership program.
Great.
So that rent that's offset, I'm not going to say we're going to get it for free by any means, but
course.
something that could maybe be reduced from what we're paying currently has been part of the discussion. So
Sure.
basically between now and July board meeting, we'll have those conversations with the landlord and bring something back to y'all in July.
Great.
Very good. All right, I'll quickly go over the legislative updates. Sine die happened, I guess, 2 weeks ago now. So record year for funding, I think, as most of you have probably heard by now. $1 billion for water quality and $1 billion for land acquisition projects in the state of Florida. Just definitely want to give shout out and tremendous appreciation to our local delegation, Senator Broxton and Representative Andrade for running our appropriations bills, but also the support that Representative Salzman and Dr. Rudman have provided as well. So we did make it into the budget in the full amount of $750,000 for Pensacola-Prudhoe Bay's Estuary Programs appropriation. Also, as a sub-awardee for the Northwest Florida Water Quality Project, which will this year be routed through the University of West Florida, we're in that budget for $350,000 as well. And then also just wanted to highlight some of the other larger grant programs. This is not a comprehensive list, but some of the ones that are either going to Water Management District or to DEP. And what you can see is there's a significant amount of funding being appropriated for the start of the new fiscal year come July 1st. That's good news for water quality projects. That's great news for all of our jurisdictions to look at that coming up in July for implementation of these regional water quality projects. Of course, we still have to wait for the governor's signature on the budget. Hopefully that'll be coming here in the next couple weeks. Assuming it does, the appropriations that are coming to the program, we'll be working with DEP to get those grant agreements in place so we can get underway on our 4th year of community grants and then implementation of our oyster restoration work as well. Just some other legislation that passed the legislature this year. There's a lot that didn't, but 4 bills that I did want to just bring back to your attention that I think are good to keep in mind. The first is Senate Bill 1604 that changes the local comprehensive planning requirements that historically has been a 5 and 10-year planning horizon, changes it to a 10 and 20-year planning horizon, so that will impact each of the local governments here in Florida. HB 111 relates to the flooding and sea level rise vulnerability studies. This authorizes the DEP Resilient Florida Grant Program to issue grants to counties and municipalities for feasibility studies related to innovative measures that reduce flooding and sea level rise that focus specifically on nature-based solutions. So nature-based solutions are certainly a concept that we push at the estuary program with our partners, and so that's a great opportunity to look at living shorelines, some other green infrastructure type projects to the Resilient Florida Grant Program. SB 724 relates to the Seagrass Restoration Technology Development Initiative. This is a partnership between Moat Marine Lab down in Sarasota and the University of Florida that directs them to create a 10-year Florida seagrass restoration plan to implement tools and technologies developed under this initiative. There's a lot of vagueness related to this, but I'm really interested to follow along with that, especially as it impacts Northwest Florida and any of the work that we're planning to do moving forward. So we'll keep an eye on that. And then finally, the largest environmental legislation that passed this year is House Bill 1379. Bear with me as I run through this. First, it appropriates $100 million annually to DEP for land acquisition under the Florida Forever Act. So certainly if each of your jurisdictions is looking at additional conservation opportunities, the first step would be to make sure it's on the Florida Forever list. And now that there is a commitment moving forward for that land acquisition program. It also requires that waters that become impaired, that are designated as impaired by DEP after July 1st of this year, must provide sewage disposal facilities that are at advanced wastewater treatment standard within 10 years of the designation. So that doesn't impact those sewer operators for areas that already have impairments. We unfortunately already have many impairments for our surface waters. That would just be for any new impairment that comes after July 1st of this year, that those sewage utility plants would be required to upgrade to advanced wastewater treatment standards within 10 years of that designation. It also prohibits new septic systems within adopted BMAP areas, reasonable assurance plans, or areas that have pollution reduction plans where sewer is available. So in the case of our area, that would, for example, impact Bayou Chico that does have an adopted BMAP. There's a couple of others that also have this alternative designation through DEP, this RAP, the Reasonable Assurance Plan and Pollution Reduction Plan. We can get you a comprehensive list to make sure everybody has a good understanding of what areas would be impacted. But again, that would prohibit new would prohibit new septic systems that fall within one of those plans where sewer is available. Let's see what else we have. One of the biggest changes or opportunities that came out of this legislation was it expands the areas and types of water bodies that are eligible to receive funding through what was formerly known as the DEP Wastewater Grant Program. That has been broadened to the DEP Water Quality Grant Program. So in addition to the sewer projects that it normally would fund, it also includes wastewater infrastructure improvements for existing facilities and new facilities, stormwater projects, and regional agricultural projects as well. So definitely broadens the opportunity associated with that water quality grant program. And then it also removes the 50% match requirement, but allows DEP to consider cost share identified by the applicant. So that has been an issue across the state. 50% match can be a heavy lift for many jurisdictions. So it opens that door a little bit for future projects to come through that water quality grant program. That's the long and short of it. Any questions on the legislative update?
I'd just like to echo your statement in recognizing our legislative delegation and thank them for their support, their continued support to having money from the state come this way. I know, like with the wildlife corridor, it's very specific. Lot of Escambia County is not in it. There's a specific map of what they see as a wildlife corridor, and I know that the rest of the state is probably a little bit farther ahead of us on some of the things that they're doing. I know they're more focused, especially in the central part of the state. But I think it's a great opportunity that we have with all the different grant funding the direct funding and things like that that the state is putting in. So I just wanted to say thank you to our legislative delegation. Thank you.
Also, just quickly, of course, we're very excited to host our second annual management conference meeting, I guess about 2 weeks ago now, over the Sanders Beach Community Center over in Pensacola. It was truly a great event. We had, I think, over 80 people in attendance, and really highlighted the value of the collaboration that we see between our program and all of our partners, whether that's governmental agencies, academia, nonprofits, or the private sector. It's got a great diversity, from across the region. We included several program updates, including, that we've brought in nearly $30 million in grant funds since the program has been formed, which is I think, pretty impressive for such a new organization. And a lot of that has to do with the partnerships that we have, be it the local governments, folks like that are at the Nature Conservancy, to keep that going. And we're looking forward to rolling that forward in the years ahead. Whitney also provided a great overview and update on release of the State of the Bays report, which she's going to share with you in just a minute. And then we also heard from Dave Tomasco, the Executive Director for the Sarasota Bay Estuary Program. And I think many of us enjoyed his presentation, but got to chat with him afterwards. And it was great because he just expressed how much excitement he had for seeing such a new program achieve so much in such a short amount of time. And again, that always goes back to the work that our team does. We are a staff of 6, and they have been all over the place and have done fantastic work, from getting the CCMP out the door, for now the State of the Bay report, the various grants we have, community grant program, too many education outreach initiatives to list. So I just want to always share that appreciation for everything that they do for the program to make it what it is. And then to also acknowledge Moffett Nickel, the Nature Conservancy in Florida and Alabama, and WSP, who served as sponsors of management conference this year. And many thanks to the board members that were able to make it. I know there's many conflicts around and can't be everywhere at the same time, but really appreciate y'all coming out. We'll hear a little bit later on some of the breakout sessions that we had. We had 4 this year focused on monitoring program, our oyster restoration initiative, education and outreach, and then environmental justice as well. And had really great feedback from the participants there. And we just appreciate everybody for coming and continuing to be engaged. So I'm going to go a little bit longer than usual, but I did want to also highlight that now I am a NERLI graduate, class of 2022. Just wanted to give tremendous thanks to the board for making that investment in me and in the program to go to this NERLI program over an 8-month duration. I don't know if the presentation's back up there or not, but I wanted to walk you through my 8 months of leadership development and understanding natural resource challenges across the state of Florida. So we began back in August of last year in Apalachicola, focusing on ecosystem restoration and the collapse of the oyster fishery over there, and got to spend a great amount of time with the National Estuarine Research Reserve staff and aquaculture operators and traditional wild harvesters that have seen their way of life totally change because of improper management decisions that have been made over the decades. We then migrated over to Bradenton in September, where we focused on the Piney Point phosphate mine disaster and had a tour of that disaster area with a former DEP staffer, and also taking a tour of the nearby Port Manatee as well. We then shot down to Homestead to discuss marine protected areas in the Biscayne Bay National Reserve there, talking about the implications for the coral declines that they're seeing, the mangrove declines that they're seeing, and the integration with an ever-expanding Miami-Dade County within 5-10 miles of that marine protected area. Then in November, we made it over to Orlando, where we focused on urban conservation. This was a really great opportunity to look at how an underserved community is using urban conservation as a tool to bring their neighborhood back up and feel that they are contributing economically to the regional economy.
Matt, are you in that picture? I'm struggling to find you.
I am somewhere.
Or did you take the picture?
Yeah. I'm uplit. I'm uplit. Right side.
Got it. All right.
I promise I didn't skip any of these. I had some plane debacles on the way down, but then we took a hiatus for Christmas and then got back online in Everglades City in January, where we were down in the Everglades and meeting with the Mississippi tribe to talk about how the Mississippi tribe's been impacted by the federal and state restoration efforts across the Everglades. Then in February, we made it over to Titusville, where we learned about WUI. Never knew what WUI meant, but that's the wildland-urban interface, and some of the difficult dynamics that they see over there in terms of a sprawling development that's taking place and how that's interacting with prescribed fire management and keeping this native ecosystem intact. Then in March, we went over to Live Oak, where we met with the Swanee River Partnership, which is honestly a program very much like the estuary program, in that they bring multiple stakeholders in industry sectors together. Here we looked at agriculture, conservation in partnership and got to take a tour of one of the active producers out there. We did not get to sample any of the kale or anything else that was being produced, but it was a great way to see some of the production in progress. And then finally, that ended in April with a graduation in Gainesville. So what I didn't touch about in each of those 8 sessions is that while a big part of it was getting out in the field and seeing some of the natural resource challenges across the state, the classroom work really focused on how to make sure these conflicts don't arise to begin with, and that's how you engage and interact with interested parties or stakeholders. The things that the tools and techniques that you can undertake to not only be a more effective and empathic listener, but to make sure that decision makers like yourselves are equipped with the best available resources, again, to prevent these issues from happening in the first place. And so there's a lot of lessons learned that I'm not going to be able to summarize here in 2 minutes. But one of the underlying themes throughout that we all had to do was to participate in a practicum. And so myself and a couple other fellows of the program got together, and our focus and practicum was on cooperative management of oyster resources throughout Florida. So as you know, oysters are a big focus of the estuary program. We've seen significant impact to the harvesting that can take place in the bay system because of the expanded shellfish harvesting closure that DAX implemented late last year. And so our project was really geared towards how we can make sure we bring the state agencies together with those industry representatives and work together in terms of the management of the resource across the state, focusing first within the Pensacola Bay system and then migrating throughout there. We're currently working up a report that we'll be sure to share afterwards once that's drafted. But again, wanted to thank the entire board and and our team for dealing with me not being in the office so much over this 8-month period. I don't, I've been to other professional development programs before. They all have their value, they all have their place, but this has been a truly, like, professionally and personally changing experience to be part of this program. And so I'd recommend, and I've sent to many of your respective staffs, that they should apply the next opportunities that they have. Sent that to our staff too. Everybody's a little scared of the travel schedule that originates with it. But it really is a great program to get an understanding of these natural resource issues that happen but can be avoided, and the skills that we can all take to improve them. So.
Matt, I just want to commend you, for completing the program and bringing that to the board for approval. I mean, that's huge. You're in a leadership position, and you recognize that there's always room to grow. So I commend you for that. It's a great accomplishment.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
So, real quick, Matt, also, I've heard that same response from several people that have attended that program. And although I haven't had a chance to do it myself, I definitely think there's a lot of value in getting staff involved in that.
Yep.
So I do think that those who may be a little nervous about travel schedules, so try to work that in at some point. Hopefully, maybe it'll be one that I'm in there with you at the same time.
There you go.
And then on the oyster thing, I really am looking forward to seeing that, because being a former oyster fisheries manager for the state, it would be quite interesting to see if you could take that and actually work it up the chain, work with Fish and Wildlife and DACs, and find ways to develop a more holistic management process.
We could probably talk about that for a couple hours.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Very good. With that, appreciate indulging me there. I have no additional updates. I'm going to turn it over to Whitney to give you an overview of the State of the Bays report.
Exciting. I'm going to try to do both of these because I'm going to try to take you on a little tour of the website as well. But this has been a long time coming. I just realized, and we talked about it at staff meeting, about this was basically 1 year to the day that we started the CCMP process, and we've done the CCMP and State of the Bays in the last year. So I feel pretty impressed that we've gotten all this done in that amount of time. But we're really proud of the State of the Bays report that was just revealed at the management conference last week. I don't know if one of you have had a chance to take a look at it. I know Woody, you sent really nice feedback, comments. We appreciate that. And this is a QR code if you guys want to kind of take the tour with me, but I'm also going to bring it up for you. So this is what the web platform looks like. This report is intended to serve as that centralized source of information for our community, for the public to learn more about the condition of our local waters. And it's kind of a choose your own adventure web platform. It has a lot of functionality. It's supposed to be interactive. There's a lot of things that you can kind of jump from topic to topic if you're interested in a specific area, specific site, specific watershed. And it provides summary data, graphs, maps on the key indicators under 4 main categories: habitats, water quality, bacteria, and wildlife. And then the Take Action tab is actually a direct link back to our estuary101.com website, which gives, again, more in-depth detail of what community members can do to help, restore and protect our waters. So kind of just to give you an overview, the main page really kind of takes you on a little journey of, why we're doing this report, what the significance of the report is, and then as you go down, there's kind of a scrolling infographic. We did this on a scale of ecosystem health. So if we have improving, stable, declining, critical, or undetermined, and that is for every indicator. So that is the first thing you see when you enter onto each of these pages, and then it kind of takes you more into detail of why that condition was assigned, specific details on the data, and kind of giving you a visual of all of those as well. So this kind of gives you an overview. You can click on each of these and go directly to the pages, and there's also these tabs at the top, so you can always get back to one of the main pages. And we kind of wanted it, this bottom, sorry to do this, Ann, this bottom graphic, as you scroll, it gives you kind of how all of these indicators are connected to one another. So we wanted to make it obvious to the general reader of, why we kind of chose the indicators we did. And, one thing doesn't always act in, it's not one thing, it's a combination of impacts, and it kind of is a trickle-down effect of things that are happening in the upper parts of the watershed impact our coastal areas. So as you kind of scroll through, you can again click on each one of these, like, oh, I want to learn more about wetlands or seagrass beds or oysters. You can click there, and it will teleport you to that page where it kind of gives you, at the top of the page, gives you a little bit of just brief summary of the ecosystem services that these habitats provide, why it's important to protect and restore them. And then if you page down, this is kind of what each page looks like. So it's all the data is segmented by each watershed. So you can look at the Pensacola Bay watershed only or do both. So it's kind of you scroll down, or you can click on the Perdido Bay watershed and it'll basically put you down to the page that you're interested in. And you can do that with the habitat tabs as well. And so just to kind of give you an overview of the page, I know I kind of went over this at the last meeting a little bit, but it'll give you the symbol of the condition indices and then a little bit more about why each of those was assigned. And then you have these little clickable figure carousels on the right-hand side. So you can either page, or they're on a timer of about 15 seconds. So as you're reading, it'll kind of change as it goes, or you can, again, choose your own adventure if you want to go through all of the figures and spend more time on one or the other. Kind of gives you a lot of freedom for how you're going to intake the information. But kind of just an overview of the web page and kind of the specific elements. And one more thing, we put at the bottom of each of these, if this is all still not enough information for you, there's a learn more about indicators. So we kind of give a little bit more context about each indicator, things that we couldn't fit in the main context that are additional kind of information that people might want. You can click there to learn more. And then if you want to learn even more about how we, synthesized all the data sources that we use, that's in the appendix document. So we have it linked to each of these pages, and it's also in the footer of the website as well. So again, there's kind of multiple places to get to all of this information. But we try to be very cognizant of things that people would be interested in learning more about, especially with bacteria impairments like we talked about earlier. We synthesized a lot of sanitary sewer overflow data and bacteria data. Of course, every water quality parameter. So we have 13 total indicators on the State of the Bays report. Most only have about 4 or 5 indicators. So we're really proud of all the information. Again, it's somewhat hard for the public to find this information most times. So I think it's a great way to have it all synthesized and in a more visual format. So we tried to be less on the words, more on, putting it into a map or a figure or things that are easy to take away. And so with that, kind of wanted to just go over key findings of the report, just to kind of give an overview. Oysters, like you saw when I was going it over, are in critical condition in the Pensacola Bay system due to declines since the 80s, but really even in a more recent loss from 2010 to 2021. As we mentioned earlier, we now have funding to really gear up the restoration of the reefs across the Pensacola Bay system, so we're excited to get started on that with all of our partners. Seagrass beds have expanded in some areas or remain stable in the Pensacola and Perdido Bay systems. Water quality in the Pensacola Bay system has recently improved for phosphorus, dissolved oxygen, turbidity, and has been stable for chlorophyll A, but there have been recent declines for nitrogen. And then water quality in the Perdido Bay system is largely undetermined due to inconsistent monitoring. And so you can kind of see those in the figures. It becomes very obvious where we're lacking data, which is another, good thing about the report is now we know where these data gaps are, where we need to increase monitoring. So we've already gotten a head start on that, making sure that we're kind of filling those data gaps. So in the next update 2 years from now, we have a better idea of kind of what the conditions are. And there's been fewer sanitary sewer flows in the Pensacola and Perdido Bay watersheds, fewer beach advisories due to bacterial concentrations. So those have been improved conditions in the Perdido Bay system, but there have been more beach advisories issued in the Pensacola Bay system, particularly in our urban bayous, which is not surprising, unfortunately. And then we have seen increased manatee sightings in both Pensacola and the Perdido Bays, especially since we've increased outreach and education in the last few years. So we're going to keep track of that. It's been a great partnership with the Dauphin Island Sea Lab, and they're going to continue to give us quarterly reports for manatee sightings in our area. So that's just a touch. There's a lot more. There's longleaf pine forest information. There's wetland extent. So really just take more time and kind of dig into it and give us any feedback that you have. We've already gotten feedback from our technical committee about some indicators that we might be able to add to the 2025 update, which I feel like is just around the corner in a couple years. So also, I failed to mention, but I see it now. There's actions, kind of call to actions on every single indicator. So if a member of the community is looking at it, what can I do on a local level? It provides, specific actions that they can take. And so again, this is kind of a link back to the Estuary 101 campaign as well. So kind of all, goes together, and we're just really proud of the final result. So I hope that everyone takes some time to check it out a bit more. Does anybody have any questions? Comments? Great to hear.
Quick question about manatees,
Yes.
if I can.
Yes.
So, do you think the increase in sightings is primarily due to the increase in awareness of reporting them?
Yeah, and I think if you can, that we have a figure here, and I think, in the last, few years, even Elizabeth gave a talk on this in their area. They're also seeing it, and they've had this program, for many years. And I think that, the first, usually when a new, effort takes off, it takes a few years to kind of see that leveling out. So that's why we continue to track them to see if it's just, an artifact of having that new program kind of see the increase in the next couple years, but we're going to continue to monitor those. But in the Mobile Bay system and other areas, they've also been seeing an increase
Okay,
in sightings.
and I guess a second part to that is, if there is a legitimate increase in manatee activity in this area, what does that signify? I mean, does that
yeah.
mean that the water's getting warmer further north, or
Yeah, so definitely with, they also collect data on stranding, so in the wintertime, those types of things. And I don't want to speak because I don't know that data exactly, but I know that they use our area mostly as a kind of a pass-through, so they're going either to Mobile Bay system or other areas when they're migrating. But yes, like you said, the waters in the winter are remaining warmer for longer, so they're spending more time here than they have been in the past. And so that's kind of one reason for that. But it's, of course, can be an indicator, like in the Indian River Lagoon and other areas where they've had, either a mass die-off of seagrass or other areas, you're going to see that impact with manatees and other things. So it's always, they're kind of an indicator of change, because if they're not choosing to spend time here or we're seeing less of them, it could be an indicator of other declines.
okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, so today I'm going to give you an update on some of our outreach programs, but before I jump into that, Matt sparked something in my mind, and just yesterday, we celebrated one of our staff members, Molly, completed her master's program at the University of Miami, so we want to give her a shout out, and she's been working on the Resilience Project with that. All right, so since we've seen you last, we had Earth Day celebrations, and this year we were pretty ambitious, and we had events in both Gulf State Park in Alabama, as well as the Bayview Center in Pensacola, and we had our traveling observation tank at both of those and had a really great reception, and were able to speak to a lot of folks about the upcoming oyster grant and those 247 football fields worth of oysters that are coming, as well as the oyster documentary. And folks were really excited about that. We were also at Santa Rosa County Bay Day. That was organized by Chris with Santa Rosa County, so we're really excited to participate in that. We had students design oyster shells and designed images or messages to really leave a stamp on future restoration projects and talk about the importance of oysters, what they are, and why recycling shell in these restoration efforts are important. And then actually just this Monday, we were at Shoreline Park with the Episcopal Day School with the University of Florida Escambia County IFAS Extension Office and their 4-H program. And so we had our Waterway Warrior relay game where kids get to help untangle sea turtles from fishing line, rubber bands, remove litter from the waterways. They get to practice some safe boating practices. They even, as you can see in the picture here, which really sticks with them, learn about the importance of keeping poop out of our waterways and scooping poop with their dogs if they have them. And they took the pledge as well and were able to see a seining demonstration, some local wildlife, and do some magnetic fishing as well. We are also partners on a grant with Place SLR for sea level rise education, and through that they've designed a couple programs to do at pop-ins, and the idea is to do these at different locations where folks aren't coming for that information, because a lot of the folks who are interested in this may already know about it, but who are the new folks we can reach who don't already know this information? So one of our first ones, we did a training with them at the Pensacola Library downtown. There's a Jenga tumbling tower. They get to learn about different things that impact their community in terms of sea level rise and resilience and how we can have stronger communities. And then there's also a fun trivia game called When Did That Happen? And we ask things like, when did the first iPhone come out? And what do you think the sea level in Pensacola was at that time? And then we tell them if they were correct, how far off, and then we also have them try and guess the projections and give them some feedback on that as well, to give them some context of how this is happening through time. And then we were really excited, this hasn't been shared publicly yet because they still have to have it all vetted, but we partnered with American Magic to build some wave gauges for our upcoming Living Shoreline program. So they helped us construct those, solder the boards together, and assemble those. This was actually last weekend, just before they were about to ship out of town. So actually the shipping container station we were working in, I saw loaded up like 2 days later, so we were really grateful for their support for that. So stay tuned whenever they have a chance to do that. With traveling to Spain and everything else, we'll be sure to share that information. And then we really hope you're able to join us next Tuesday for the premiere of The Humble Oyster. It's going to be May 23rd, so again, next Tuesday, 6 p.m. Doors open at 5. And we're really grateful for WSRE for hosting this screening, and also they've given us a lot of support through promotion of the film, so we expect to have a great turnout. And then if you can't make it on Tuesday, that following Thursday, there will be an in-studio episode aired at 7 p.m., so we're gonna have some different segments and guests come on and speak about things in a little more depth, and then that'll be followed by the airing of the screen at 9 p.m. So we're really excited about this, and I should mention, if you didn't see it as well, the great team at Mississippi State that produced the film, it was nominated for a Southeast Emmy. So we're really excited about that. We should know this summer whether or not it wins. And then I'm gonna hand it over to Maddie, and she's gonna give you an update on our community grants.
Good afternoon, everybody. So I just want to update you guys on our community grants. Now, this project term is coming to a close really soon, so that's May 31st is the final reporting day. And you guys will get a lot more information about all of the final reports that I get in after that at the next policy board meeting. But just a couple that I want to highlight now for you guys is going to be that Blackwater Soil and Water Conservation District no-till seed drill rental program. It's a mouthful, but it's a really awesome program. So basically they're offering farms the ability, like smaller farms, the ability to rent out this drill at a low cost to kind of help with that cover crop planting and reduce that sediment runoff from it. Now they do have a ribbon cutting ceremony coming on tomorrow, May 18th at 9 a.m. And as you can see, I have all the information on that slide. We can share that with you as well. But come out and celebrate the ribbon cutting for this rental program because it is now off the ground. Another update is for the Navarre Beach Marine Science Station, their aquatic care team. Now, this program is one where students, they educate the community on the aquatic ecosystems, and they also do some bi-weekly water quality sampling in the Santa Rosa Sound. They've been doing that through the whole term, even though their equipment didn't get in until like 2 weeks ago. They tried to purchase the new piece of equipment called the Castaway, and they just got it in, so they're super excited about that. They still did do all the sampling throughout the program's term, but this new Castaway water device, a sonde, it's really mainly focused on they're trying to get that nutrient measurement with that one is what they didn't get the opportunity to do pretty much with what they already had. So that was the big update for theirs. And then the last thing, last community grant update, is the Franklin's Promise Escarosa Oyster Corps. Now this is it's a conservation corps where members work to restore, protect coastal resources by collecting and recycling oyster shell, growing native marsh plants, implementing living shoreline projects, and educating high school students through hands-on experience. And just last week, they hosted a field trip over at Florida Town with Pace High School with Joshua Brooks and his students, and they planted over 100 salt meadow cordgrass plants. So really excited. Again, you guys will get a lot more information about all of the community grants once we finalize those reports at the end of May. So you guys will get all that information in the next policy board meeting. And the next thing I want to update you guys on are trash-free waters lessons that we're pretty much done with for this year, but we're super excited to go into next year with some teachers that are really committed to keeping up with this. So our high school case studies have been completed on both West Florida High School and Gulf Breeze High School campuses. These graphics that I have up on the screen right now are just the numbers from those case studies that West Florida High School did. And then I have a student that's going to present the Gulf Breeze High School one, so I'm super excited to see those any day now. But these are the ones for West Florida High School, so we're really excited about this because now West Florida has participated in this case study for 2 years. So we have 2 years of data on what they have collected, where they're finding all this trash. And so we're moving on to our final step with these case studies, and that's litter reduction implementation projects on their campus. So we are working with West Florida High School and Gulf Breeze High School to implement some of those litter reduction projects. We are working on the proposals with the teachers right now, and then starting in the next school year, we're going to have those projects actually, break ground. So we're really excited about that. And yeah, that's it for my Trash-Free Waters lessons update. Is discussion item tomorrow? Yeah.
All right, that is our staff updates. Again, always a lot going on. Any other questions related to staff updates for myself or the rest of the team? All right.
Can't help it. The one thing we knew the least about, the sonde, what is that for the
Right, so the data song is just for that. It's collecting data for different water quality parameters, whether that's dissolved oxygen, temperature, salinity, pH. It's an instrument, a piece of equipment that is deployed out in our surface waters wherever the stations are located.
Oh, so it's something that's set free, basically. That's why it's called a
I don't know about
castaway,
that
I
one in
guess.
particular. If that one's left out in the field,
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It looked like something that was set free and then, okay.
Yep.
Cool.
I think we can move on to discussion items if there's no other discussion about the updates.
Right.
All right.
Very good. So the one discussion item before the board today is just regarding fiscal year 23-24 local government contributions. So I've had the opportunity to meet with most of you, understand not all of you, at the last board meeting, we did discuss, and Grover brought this up, the idea of a population-based approach to looking at membership levels for FY 23-24 based on the population that resides within the Pensacola or Prudhoe Bay's watershed, and using a number of 50 cents per person based on the 2020 census data. So what you have on the screen presented there uses that formula for the most part, but also, understanding that maybe some jurisdictions aren't able to fully come to that level up to this point. So really, what I'm looking for is just a path forward from the board in terms of our asks for 23-24. So that way we can go ahead and get those contribution request letters out to your respective jurisdictions. I know many of you are in the budgeting process right now, and we'll start having budget hearings in June and July time period. Certainly we're happy to meet with you and your staff if there's any other questions, and certainly understand if what's proposed also doesn't work, but we are really looking to try to get to that 299, 300,000 threshold from our local partners to make sure when we move forward with NEP designation that one-to-one match is there for the operational side of the program. Do you want to add anything?
Yeah, no, I simply wanted to say, we do need to get something started on this issue, and we very much are looking at it, and we've discussed this with some of you. I know the city of Pensacola we had discussed, and they have it set up in their membership. We see this as a membership. You already signed off. You said you wanted to be a part of this group. We are looking at this as the cost of the membership to be able to do this. I think what you saw before you, I think, Mayor Fitch, you're exactly right. This is amazing when you look at what we are doing. I certainly had thoughts of what we would do as this program came in here, but 4 years ago, I never envisioned it being what we just saw and where we are. And Dave Tambasco, I'm going to take a minute just to brag on the group that's here. When what was his name? Tabasco. Yeah. Tabasco. No. What was his last name again? Damasco. Okay. Close. It's close. It was impressive when I talked to him, because I talked to him before we started this process, and he goes, y'all are doing more than probably half of the NEPs. And it is amazing to see what we are doing without even getting that designation fund. Now, we think we're going to get there, and we think we certainly have ways to get there, and we would have loved to have been there by that. But to see what we're doing and accomplishing, and I think so much of it is having sat in your chairs. The problem is the whole bay system and the estuary. When you look at how big it is, it's so much bigger than any jurisdiction, which is why we need a group like this to go out and do this, but put it together and team all working together. And I think it's important why each jurisdiction participate in this support, and the financial support is what we need to be able to continue to do what is going on, and Matt and them and the team is doing. And I think it's incredibly impressive what's going on, and really a path forward to where we go. And Commissioner Wright, you're talking about the issue with the manatees. But I remember 20 years ago when we just first started seeing osprey again, really here. We hadn't seen that in my entire lifetime. And so there are a lot of new species that we see coming back, and I think they do speak to the overall health of what we want to see. But again, the specifics of it are so, I think, as Whitney said, it's so interdependent on so many things. There's no one thing, which is why having a group like the estuary program is so important to this area and what we are doing. And again, I think one of the things that was interesting, Robert said at the very beginning, talking about the watershed issue, when we had Bark, it was pretty much a Pensacola Bay. I think Escambia County, I remember when we made the choice to do this and to take on 2 estuaries, which seemed crazy, but it was very much the point where we woke up in Escambia County and said, we're not all in one estuary. We have 2 watersheds we're a part of. So I think it's the right thing to do in Perdido too. And while I wish Baldwin County was here, and I think they made a mistake. I think it will show up is what everybody said as we've gone forward. I think they're going to see probably the error of their way, but we're going to keep doing what we need to do to make Perdido Bay right. And we certainly appreciate Orange Beach continuing to be a part of this, and just the grants that the team has been able to do. When you look at $30 million for what we're only asking for in local contribution, and that's the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more opportunity here, but we can't do any of that without you contributing in. And yes, we'd all like to have to give less, but at the end of the day, what we're getting out of this is so much bigger than what we're asking each of you to put in a very small way. And we've barely scratched the surface. I know we've sat with the city of Milton and talked about septic to sewer and Gulf Breeze. What are the priorities there in trying to figure out what we can do? And there are so many other opportunities out there that are able. But the fact that we've done the CCMP, we've done the State of the Bays, and so many of the other things, we are so far ahead of what other fully designated NEPs are doing, and that's just what this staff has been able to do. And we need your support to continue to keep doing that.
Grover, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I echo all your sentiments. The work that Matt, you and your entire team have done with the resources that you do have is pretty amazing. At the same time, I think you're exactly right. It's just the tip of the iceberg. I think the opportunity to do so much more is there. I personally, I like the population-driven, contribution process. I think it's about as fair as you can possibly get. I only can speak for one member of the Santa Rosa County Board, but I certainly support going that direction. And I also, I would support it more or less being more of a membership rather than something that comes before our board every year and can become the political hot potato, so to speak. I think it's something that we should just make sure is a recurring membership expense to show Santa Rosa County's investment in the program. I think for the small amount that each of us actually pay into the program, and what that turns into from grant perspective and the actual impact it has on our watershed, it's pretty amazing. Mm-hmm. And I just like the fact that this is a very collaborative approach with everybody, that we all realize that, we all share the same water. And, there's no one group or individual that could actually fix this problem on their own. So thank you for what you and your team do.
I'd like to echo that. Really, when you look at this on an economic standpoint, this is just a small pay-in for what it could really pay back to the whole area as a whole. So I don't foresee any problems on. I can't speak for the board, but I can speak for myself. I can tell you I'm very much in support of this, because just without our waterways, nobody's coming here. Nobody's interested in here. So, it's a real easy sell, and, got my support.
Well, I think it's an easy sell, but I think it would be good for at least asking. I think we do need to take action so that the chair and the executive director can send the letter then to each of the jurisdictions. And while we're doing awesome things with oysters, Robert and Mike, we're not going to do anything with oysters in Escambia County. I know that's it's a sensitive discussion over in Escambia County.
Really?
But the oysters are doing great things in the rest of the estuary.
Well, I would move approval of the chairman, the executive director, sending that letter to all the jurisdictions for signatures.
Second.
All right. Any opposed? All right, motion passes.
And we just need you to go back to your jurisdictions and cheerlead. So thank you very much for that.
I'm gonna forgive you for that comment because I'm very pro oyster, but I'm looking forward to the humble oyster. But I do want to say this. I do think from what you said on the membership piece, I appreciate you guys coming to talk to me. It just makes sense to me, so every one of us don't have to go back and fight to all of our boards. I hope collectively we can get that through, Robert, and everyone can, because it's in the best interest of your vision and where we want to go as a whole. So that's all I want to share with you.
Thanks for that.
Great. So looks like we can move on to committee updates.
First we have up is Paul with our technical committee. Chairman.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Hey, y'all. I just wanted to, we didn't really have a meeting this last quarter in between the last two of your meetings, but we did have the management conference, which kind of set in for that. Everybody has talked about how great it is. I say excellent. And one of the things I was thinking about, the pictures that you saw, those are citizens. I mean, it's not just scientists, you know, talking wonky. It's people sitting down and doing things or trying to find out answers to things. The speaker, the Sarasota EP guy, was really good. And what I got from his speech was, we've been doing this a long time, and we're still seeing that we still can't, you know, assure that this is going to stay. We have to understand this is a long-term thing. You know, that we are going to be fighting against nature and everything else around us, and it can't happen just alone with 6 people or with 80 people. And with you guys behind it, we're going to do great. There were 4 breakout sessions. I attended 2, and mainly I did it because they were things I didn't know anything about. And it was environmental justice and the education and outreach. And I know some of it, but I'm not as good as you two. So, but the environmental justice one was really good. Again, what I saw was, it was good, well attended. The people there were from Alabama and Florida. They were from government and non-government folks, and we all had our homework assignment. We had to do stuff. We just couldn't sit there and listen. And we came up with ideas, and those ideas were well thought out. And then we were forced to actually say, okay, we came up with this idea, but how do you do it? And that was the really cool part. Again, it was interactions at the tables, and the tables brought up these ideas, and they were all written down. We've got them, and it's the next set of data that these guys are going to turn into gold. Trying to think if there's anything else. I think that was it. Oh, one other thought about that management plan, or management conference. There's a lot of times, and I'm sure you've been around, where they say, okay, we're done, and everybody splits. I was there and kind of helping people put stuff away, and I watched as people just kind of lingered and talked and interacted, and it didn't stop with just, okay, we're done. It was people talking outside, talking inside, just really reluctant almost to leave, and that says so much about how good that conference is. The State of the Bays thing, Whitney introduced it to us at the conference, and I was impressed with how she was able to just go through it and touch on it. I mean, if you've ever seen somebody try to present their software, and they get to a point and they go, wait a second, she didn't have to do that. And then you saw today, she didn't have to do that either. And it says to me that it was looked at from a point of view of what do we want in the end, not what's all the stuff that we can stuff in. And it also, and you made a great point, you're able, as any level of knowledge, to get something out of that. And, kids can go in and the pictures are there and they can get something from that. People who maybe know something about the science, but not all of it, can get something from it. And then people that with degrees can now go to the bottom of those screens and find out what went into it. And Whitney and I talked about this the other day, and I told her I was very proud of them for not going for grades, because I'm tired of grades. I've been through enough school. What I like is the emoji things. It's good, it's bad, it's okay. We don't know enough. All of that is important, again, to get somebody involved. They've got a picture in their mind now. It's not just words, and I think that's very important for what they put together. So I'm happy. We're having another meeting in a couple weeks, I think, right? Yep. Yes.
It's a little ways.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
Paul always is too nice to us. But yes, it was a great meeting. I'm going to give a brief update from the Oyster Subcommittee. Again, we haven't had a meeting since our last policy board meeting, but our management conference, we had a special breakout session dedicated to our Pensacola Bay Oyster Restoration Initiative grant that's coming up. And so we already are getting a head start on feedback from our Oyster Subcommittee participants, as well as other folks that attended that breakout session. Again, it was really well attended. We had very active members, even though this was the second session of the day, and I feel like people were already, tiring out. We still had great feedback and discussion. So participants helped us prioritize restoration locations for the phase 1 of the implementation for the initiative. So we only, we have specific set of resources, so we really wanted to get an idea of where, the top 3 locations based on our vision maps that we created last summer with our Oyster Subcommittee. So we presented those to them and really had them kind of discuss in groups of what the benefits of each of the locations were, and for that first phase, what would those locations be and why. And then we also had, the next discussion was about potential restoration strategies and materials we could use to inform our next steps. So to restore for specific habitat purposes or ecosystem services or fisheries related, so aquaculture or wild harvest. So really digging into those details to kind of set us up for those next steps of kind of bringing on that person to kind of help us design this bay-wide scale, because it's going to be quite the feat to get it all done. And so kind of breaking it into these more manageable pieces is going to be the way we get it done. So we had a lot of great feedback. We'll be synthesizing that shortly, and then we'll have probably another Oyster Subcommittee meeting in July or August of this year.
Great.
Got Rick O'Connor here, one of our co-chairs for the Education Outreach Committee.
Thank you. Rick O'Connor. I'm the Sea Grant agent over in Escambia County, and I'm now the chair of the Education Outreach Committee. We met in February before the management conference started, and a couple of bullet points from there. Of course, we're looking at the Estuary 101, which was launched on March 9th. One of the focus sessions, as Paul mentioned just a second ago, was figuring out how to expand the reach of that particular program. It's taken off. It's in great shape. I don't think it's moved as fast as we were hoping. So again, we're looking at how to reach out to extended audiences and what the next phases with that will be. Also a fellow fundraiser that's going to be was part of that discussion as well. You guys saw the State of the Bay report. Everybody's talked about how great that is. As a person who works with educating the public, I will tell you, when I looked at it and reviewed it, it was all gold as far as I could tell. I mean, I work with the public, and when they go in to look at water quality information, Most of it is put in a format that they just can't find what they're looking for. There's one or two things. They did an excellent job putting it together. The graphic icons, just the red, I know it's not good, green, I mean, just that simple. And then they can go deeper, but they did an excellent job on that, and I think the feedback on that was very, very good. There is going to be an education event coming up in July, the Brews for the Bays, bringing that back. So that will be coming back in July. There will be a sea turtle baby shower, and I think that's June, right? That's going to be in June, out at Pensacola Beach, which focuses on sea turtles. But if you've never attended the event, there's a lot of other education outreach that goes on. But a lot of it's focused on B&Ps, on dealing with and handling sea turtle issues in the Bay Area. And then Scales to Tales, which I think is kind of cool. This is going to be a library program at the Summerdale Library that will be coming up. So I don't know exactly when our next meeting is. Our last was in February, August. That's right. We're going to be meeting in August. So that's the updates from education right now.
Thanks, Rick.
Sure.
Mr. Chair, the Sea Turtle Baby Shower is Saturday, June 3rd, 9 a.m. to noon at the Gulfside Pavilion on Pensacola Beach.
Very good. Last up, we have Dr. Ryan Kirby, who is one of the co-chairs of our new Environmental Justice Committee.
Hey, I'm Ryan Kirby with Escambia County. So yeah, you heard we had a great attended discussion at our breakout meeting. It was really engaging. We talked a lot about our draft objectives and goals, and really had a lot of feedback there with what the participants want to see. We also identified some environmental justice concerns, areas, and gaps, and we found that a lot of our participants were from like the Escambia County, South Perdido area. So we're looking at in the future, expanding where we have more representation. And staff is synthesizing the results from that meeting, and we're looking forward to seeing more about this.
All right. Thanks, Ryan. Thanks. Okay. Any updates from the board?
Nope.
All right. Seeing none. What about public comment?
I simply going to lastly say, I want to thank Escambia County and the City of Pensacola for letting me come back and work. This is a great organization that again, it's a treasure for all of us to have. I can't say enough good things about them, having worked with it. You've got a great team working with it, even though I probably won't see y'all again. I'll be leaving at the end of June. It's been a great pleasure to work with it and get us to this point where we're going to be, and I think once we get independent, talking about the tip of the iceberg, I think it's only going to go faster once the independence. I think all the things are going to start to fall into place, but this has been the critical point. But it's been a pleasure to work with this, and you have a great team, and they're going to do great things for our community.
Thank you, Grover. We really appreciate what you've done.
Yeah, Grover, thank you very much for helping out and stepping up.
Yeah. I just want to say one thing before we adjourn. Today's a big day, right? We're about to sign this thing. We've been working towards this for a while, and I mentioned this at the beginning of the management conference, and Grover alluded to it as well. We've come a long way from the days of Bay Area Resource Council, right? I remember sitting in that little conference room at West Florida Regional Planning Council, working on this proposal for the grant, and some familiar faces in the audience that were there too, but it looks a lot different now, but we've come a long way. So it's a big day, and I just wanted to emphasize that with the board. All right. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right. Bang this gavel.
That's your favorite part.
That is the best part, man.
Stick around for a signature.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
If not, I'm just going to have to email it.
Wait, is this it?
That's it.
Yeah,
It's just you.
Okay. You're gonna have that one.
We got. Yeah, that's all I got. So. That's the one? Yeah, all right.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, remind us.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, that's right.